It does provide foreign investors all kinds of unprecedented rights and privileges, and they can take actions that are normally prohibited under U.S. law. And like the World Trade Organization and the European Union, NAFTA has created a supranational trade regulations that would be illegal under U.S. law because they're outside the system. The task force of the Council for Foreign Relations proposes the creation by 2010 of a North American community to enhance prosperity and all that good stuff. And same pattern that they foisted on Europe. By when? By 2010. We have an election going on till November of 2008, and they're going to scratch hard to try to keep things together till then, but from 2008 to 2010, you can expect upheavals that are beyond your imagining. In March of 2005, the Security and Prosperity Partnership between President Bush and Mexican President Vicente Fox and the then Canadian Prime Minister Paul Martin, they formed a partnership. The purpose was to combat the growing threat of terrorism, to address the need for improved border security. Really? Which border are you talking about? And to promote economic growth and trade between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. Doesn't that sound wonderful? Check their website. It's full of all kinds of lies and deceit that have been put to the test. In the U.S., the top 3 cabinet officers, and in Mexico and Canada, these 9 people have been meeting behind closed doors in secret for 3 years, a better part of 3 years, planning the merger of the 3 countries. Now that might be a good idea, but not done in secret, totally outside the prevailing law, totally against the oath of office of our elected officials. Example, they're building the NAFTA superhighway. It's going to go all the way from Laredo, Texas, through Kansas City, through Duluth, Minnesota. There's the master plan when it's finally finished, combining Mexico, United States, and Canada. The main portion that's under construction right now is the Trans-Texas Corridor. It is a toll road. This is all paid for by foreign investors. The states love it because it's not on their payroll, and it's not federally supported significantly. It consists of 12 lanes wide, 6 in each direction, separate lanes for passenger vehicles and large trucks. It also includes freight railways, high-speed commuter railways, and all kinds of utilities, natural gas, broadband, all that sort of stuff. And the Mexican leg starts at the southern tip on the Pacific in a port called Lázaro Cárdenas. And this port is today run by Hutchison Whampoa. That's the same Chinese firm that presently runs both ends of the Panama Canal and the port of Long Beach, California. Now that's kind of exciting. Lázaro Cárdenas presently can handle about 100,000 containers annually. Now a container, you know these 20-foot long containers, you've seen them all. Do you realize that a container ship carries between 10 and 15,000 of those, to give you a feeling for what's going on here? Hutchison Whampoa and Walmart have entered into a joint venture to upgrade Lázaro Cárdenas to be able to handle, by 2010, interesting date, a 2,000% increase, 2 million per year. Now, this all starts down in the south. A truck, even today, trucks can go from Mexico across that border bypassing customs. They go up. They don't have to stop. They're doing it experimentally so far. And they end up, the only place they theoretically would have to stop would be Kansas City, a so-called smart port, but it's an electronic port. The property is considered Mexican territory. And all this is tracked by watching RFID chips that are on the pallets of the containers. And so this, of course, goes all the way up, that goes all the way up through Winnipeg and so on. Now, this will be a highly efficient path then for the drugs and the illegal aliens and what have you, okay? Now, I didn't get a snicker with that one, huh? Okay. The smart port is electronic. The electronics are built by Sava Limited, which is a joint venture between Lockheed Martin and a Chinese company. So China is going to have its fingers in all the electronics going on in this whole situation. Well, we could go through more of this stuff This is basically, it goes on and on. The border enforcement. There is no intention to enforce the borders. You know, it's amazing to me that during all the election rhetoric in the United States, no one has mentioned this. They scream about the border not being enforced. If it wasn't so late in his term of office, I think he would be impeached for failure to fulfill his oath of office. But that obviously is not in the scheme of things. It's incredible. In less than 4 years from now, if the CFR template is followed, the United States may cease to exist as an independent political entity. It'll be nothing more than a province of the emergent North American Union. And what's interesting is this isn't being debated. The fact that it's happening is a shock because there's a deeper issue underlying all of this, and that is there is no national legislation authorizing the SPP. There is no congressional oversight. There has been no public debate until WorldNet Daily and also Jerry Corsi. Jerry Corsi is the author that did the Swift boat thing back when John Kerry had ambitions. Jerry Corsi is the guy that wrote Atomic Iran, which woke up people to the initial issues of Iran. He's just published a book a few months ago called The Late Great USA, which documents all the details behind this. This isn't, it's a very thorough, he's a PhD from Harvard, he's a good friend of mine from the Council of National Policy, and his book is brief, to the point, fully documented. And he's the one on the press that says to Bush, you're calling us conspirators. You're the ones that are meeting behind closed doors without the press for the last 3 years. Don't call us conspirators. But there's a deeper problem that lurks behind all of this. That's the impending monetary crisis. And let me tell you candidly, one of the reasons I was in London was to be briefed by some of the top economic research people in London on the peculiarities of what's going on right now. Many of you may realize that the fifth largest investment banking firm in the United States went under here a few weeks ago, and everybody presumes that it went under because of the subprime mortgages. But what's confused the analysts, the people who are close to the situation, that wasn't the camel that broke the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. It was their inability to liquidate the most valuable parts of their portfolio that caused the whole thing caused the federal government to step in to prevent the whole fabric from collapsing on everyone's ears. And there's a big debate going on in corporate boardrooms. Is it insolvency or illiquidity? And there's two different theories, and neither one fit the facts. The United States dollar accounts for has counted for two-thirds of the world trade, and over 70% of the reserves of the central banks around the world have been in U.S. dollars. It's the sole currency used by the International Monetary Fund. This has conferred on the U.S. an advantage, a very unusual advantage, that they can run a trade deficit each year by borrowing, because foreign countries need dollars for the IMF loans, among other things. A wholesale move away from the dollar, which is beginning, stands to jeopardize equities in China, Russia, and Europe. So they're hoping for a gradual response to all of this, a soft landing as it's called. That would appear in everyone's interest, of course, except Islam's. Little perspective. Back in 1944, 44 countries met at a resort in New Hampshire called Bretton Woods. And at that conference, they established the International Monetary Fund, and they also pegged their currencies against the dollar on the condition they could exchange the dollars for gold. That was called the gold exchange standard. It made sense in those days because the U.S. was a major oil exporter, among other things. Well, by the time you get to 1970, President Nixon discovers the shock that there's 5 times as many dollars floating around the world as there was gold in Fort Knox. So he shut the gold window. He abrogated Bretton Woods. Now, if you're a central banker, you got a problem. You got nothing you can do about it, but your dollars now are backed by nothing but the reputation of the United States, which is a fragile thing, I suspect. Huh?